Hey everybody, ronarray here, and as the league progresses, both prices and strategies change. But today I want to talk about a particular strategy that will be profitable all across the league, because it provides one of the most important currency for crafting. So if you're going to just follow it, you always will be able to make pretty stable and easy currency. I will be able to showcase how to do that, what kind of tree to use, and how you can farm Harbingers the best. Because Harbingers are going to provide Fracturing Orbs, and Fracturing Orbs are always in a high demand. Let's go! So with this strategy, we're going to focus on getting as many Harbingers in our maps as we can, while getting as many currency shards from them as we can as well. And first off, and probably the most important part, Harbingers are not affected by quantity, so you don't really need any proper quantity at your character. Harbingers themselves are going to drop a lot of shards, but usually you just need to focus on a few, which are probably the most expensive right now. So first off, it's Orb of Annulment shards. Orb of Annulment is not really too expensive, it's currently approximately like 3 chaos per one, but it's still a very stable amount of currency. And the next one is Ancient Orb. Ancient Orb right now is not really too expensive as well, but the orb itself is like approximately 8 chaoses. It still provides a very stable profit too. However, I don't really recommend to take, for example, chaos shards or transmutation shards or alteration shards, because that way you will loot too much, you will click too much, and you're probably going to lose time. So most of the time I'm just blocking all the shards lower than Orb of Annulment. So I'm taking Annulment, I'm taking Ancient shards, I'm taking Exalted shards. And on top of it, you will need to focus on Fracturing Orb shards, because those are going to be a very big part of your profit. Currently, Fracturing Orb costs almost 4 divines. And to be precise, at 3.9 exactly. So that's a pretty decent amount of currency, and you will be able to drop some Fracturing shards multiple times during even 1 hour farming session, which leads to a very good profit. Also, Harbingers can drop mirror shards too, which are very expensive. Most of the time it's not really happening, however, there's still a chance that it's going to happen, so sometimes it could be a nice addition to the profit if you're farming Harbingers for very long. But the main idea here is just to focus on Fracturing shards, because those are going to drop pretty often. So let's talk about how we can improve that strategy with like Scarabs and the tree. So how we are going to run it? First off, let's talk about possibility of Scarabs. For Scarabs, generally, I recommend to run all Harbinger Scarabs together. Most of the time it's Harbinger Scarab of Warhawk, because that way you will get currency shards dropped by Harbingers in area are duplicated. It's going to rise your profits significantly, because if you will get like fragmented shards or even mirror shards, those will be duplicated and you will not lose currency. On top of it, running Harbinger Scarab of Obelisks helps a lot as well, because Obelisks are going to drop currency shards too, and that way you will be able to receive more shards in general and bigger chances to get the good ones. Harbinger Scarabs of Regency is also working pretty good. It currently gives 50% chance for Harbinger to be replaced by a powerful Harbinger boss, and together with the tree, it will give you 75% chance for normal Harbinger to be replaced with a boss, so it's definitely recommended. The last one is Harbinger Scarab by itself, because it's just spawning 3 Harbingers. And that way you'll have at least 4 Scarabs, but for the last slot it could be a little different. Some people recommend to run Scarab of Monstrous Lineage, because getting additional pack size is nice, but I usually prefer instead of that to run additional Harbinger Scarab by itself. That way you're just running 2 basic Scarabs, Regency, Obelisks and Warhordes. And that's the whole setup that we're going to utilize here. If you don't have the last socket in your map device for some reason, you can drop 1 normal Harbinger Scarab. It's also pretty questionable is it worth to run like Harbinger mod right here, but generally I honestly think for 3 chaoses is pretty much worth it. So I've been always running Harbinger mode on the map device. You don't really care that much about quantity, but 3 additional Harbingers are pretty much very good. You will also drop more Harbinger Scarabs that way, which is nice too. For the map itself, you need to get as high monster pack size as you can get, so you can run like 8 mode maps or just the normal maps with as high pack size as possible. I usually recommend to run at least close to 30% of the pack size, and perfectly go to 40 and higher. Another interesting question is, do you really need to run tier 17s? Since tier 17s can have like bigger pack size and additional bonuses, you can pretty much run the strategy just fine in tier 17. However, it's not too important, and if you're not sure and don't want to spend your tier 17 on buy them, you can just run like normal 8 mods maps for higher pack size, or even normally rolled basic tier 16s. The strategy is also working pretty good on tier 16 and 5, so if you have an option for it, you can pretty much utilize it too. So generally, let's talk about the tree itself. For the Harbinger tree, you will need to take all Harbinger nodes, because those are definitely recommended, like guaranteed Harbinger, additional cooldown rate, and chance for your currency shards to be dropped as currency items instead. Don't forget about 25% chance for powerful Harbinger boss, which will lead you to 75. And take all possible explicit modifiers everywhere. Don't forget one additional point right here, which is just recently added. And we're going to combine Harbingers with another good thing to farm when we have a lot of pack size and a lot of monsters in general, Beyond. That way, when you're taking Beyond, just make sure you're taking Beyond here, here and here. One of the most important part for Beyond is taking Pale Clarion. It will give you, like Beyond demons in your maps has increased chance to be followers of Baydat, and more basic currency items found from Beyond demons that are followers of Baydat. Another important part right here. Since we are going to farm a lot of Beyond, taking Endless Tide is very recommended, because otherwise, in your map, you're going to encounter the boss, and when you will kill the boss, your Beyond monsters will just stop spawning. But you don't really need that, right? We need as many Beyond monsters as possible, so taking Endless Tide is very important. It will make your merging radius for portals a little lower, but it will make sure that you will keep killing Beyond monsters until the end of the map, and they will not stop appearing when you will just hit the boss very fast. There's also a pretty important note right here called Fiendish Opulence. It gives 25% increase of quantity of tainted currency dropped by Beyond demons on your maps. Since tainted currency has a pretty decent cost right now, I recommend to take that, because that way you will be able to just have a better time and better divine per hour in general. Another interesting trick is just to take all additional Scarabs nodes, so remarkable relics mostly, and amplified artifacts. Together with trapping carapaces, you will drop a decent amount of ambush Scarabs, which is not a bad idea in general. And ambush Scarabs can cost a lot and could help you with your divine per hour calculation too. And taking all possible explicit modifiers is very important, because those are going to improve the pack size of your maps. Just make sure that your build is strong enough and you will be able to clear off it without an issue. And another interesting question, should we run like Ether or should we run like Exarch? So generally for that strategy, I'm usually recommending to run in Exarch, because Ether is mostly focused on additional bonuses like quantity and stuff like that, and Exarch is going to provide a pretty decent amount of just like additional chaoses, additional chisels, and basic currency for you. I feel like Exarch could be a little more stable when Ether is mostly focused on just searching for that beautiful divine altar, which is not really happening that often. So for that strategy, I'm usually just running Exarch. Make sure you're taking all the pack size here and all the pack size here as well for Exarch. Otherwise, the tree is very simple. Another interesting thing that I'm practically adding to almost all my current farming strategies is just June by itself. Because that way you will encounter June at least from time to time, you will be able to kill all like reinforcement and June monster pretty often, and you will just get a little additional currency from it. Since it will cost you only like 3 additional points, I heavily recommend to take that. And here we're blocking most of the things that we don't like in our maps, just to make sure there's less possible scarabs to drop, because we're heavily expecting like trapping carapaces and carving carapaces, so Harbinger scarabs to drop or ambush scarabs to drop. That way, if I would have more points, I would probably block everything except maybe ultimatum, because some ultimatum scarabs cost a lot. Otherwise, the tree is pretty simple and there's nothing else to focus on. Another interesting topic is how you can make this strategy a little cheaper. So generally, Harbinger Scarab or Regency is the most expensive scarab that you currently have in the set. That's approximately like 8 chaoses, and I would say it's pretty cheap already. But if it's like at the start or you don't want to invest too much currency, you already have 25% chance to get bosses from your tree. So I would just replace Regency with another Harbinger Scarab. That way you will have even more Harbingers and amount of bosses will be lower, but you will pay significantly less. So if you feel like Scarabs in general are a little too expensive for you, probably replacing Regency would be the best idea. The second Scarab is pretty much Harbinger Scarab of the Warhordes, but I'm absolutely sure that you can't replace that one, because without it, your profit is going to literally drop like 2 times lower, because duplication of shards is playing a very big role right here. Generally, I also recommend to run Regency too, but probably the setup with 3 normal Harbinger Scarabs, just Obelisks and Warhordes, will be the best idea if you're trying to save some currency. And the last part is pretty much the idea that maybe you don't really need obelisks. Sometimes people don't really like them that much and instead just use triple Harbinger Scarabs normally together with Regency and Warhordes. That could be an option too, but generally I prefer to add obelisks because those are pretty cheap and I think it's pretty much worth it because you already have a lot of basic Harbingers stacked through the map craft together with double Scarabs for 3 Harbingers. And that's pretty much all what you need to know. Harbingers right now could provide a very decent amount of currency and you can get multiple just like fracturing shards without a lot of issue. Also, if you will follow that strategy, it will be pretty fast and pretty relaxed too. On top of it, you're also going to drop like tainted currency from beyond, which is pretty nice as well because some particular part definitely cost a lot. Like Tainted Orb of Fusion, for example, is almost 20 chaoses right now, Tainted Exalted is 20 as well, and you can just stack a lot of those on each other and pretty much sell them on in the bulk after a big farming session. Hope this strategy will help you out to farm some currency, and you will have a nice time while running it. You will also get a pretty decent amount of gold, but not too much because Harbingers are not considered like innate monsters of the map, so for gold I would probably recommend something else. And you will get a decent amount of experience too, because Harbingers provide a lot of monsters which are still grant experience. Have fun with it and see you next time. ronarray out.